last night?
I was out.
I heard you come home at 5 in the morning. With who?
Everybody always asks me, what research, I did to sort of get into the mind space of a teenage boy. And I don't really have a great answer for that question. I think that when you're writing, like every character that you write is just as much an extension of your imagination and yourself. It doesn't so much have to do with gender. While I was, working on the script, I was going through a lot of life transitions, and there was a tremendous amount of pressure on me to sort of make money and support a family and be successful. And I feel like I sort of transferred all of the pressure that I was feeling in my own life and in my own experience, into this character.
I got a lot going on right now, and I didn't mean to insult you. Hey, I'm trying to apologize.
Okay.
He's, a kid that's under a lot of pressure from his environment and from his world, and he's coping with a lot of conventional expectations around him. And inside him, there is this other person that's trying to sort of find their way and find their voice. And that's sort of always how I approached the character, that he was, maybe inarticulate and afraid of who he was or who he might be, and that sort of fear and feeling of hiding is the tension of the entire story. And once I was able to kind of find his core, I think, then I was able to write the script.
Hey.
You want to take a walk on the beach?
Are you a cop?
No.
You have to tell me if you're a cop. It's the law.
That's not the law.
Prove to me you're not a cop. Get in.
When I started making films, I saw all these filmmakers representing one experience of Brooklyn, which is largely, people who move to New York and try and carve a life out for themselves. And, there's so much, so many films about that experience, and I was sort of thinking about this kind of cinema of the 70s, like Saturday Night Fever, of these characters that are trying to sort of escape this city that's essentially holding them back. And I feel like that experience also still exists in the city. Those groups of people are just pushed farther and farther, out to the water's edge. I cast non-actors, and some of the kids that I cast were from a neighborhood in Brooklyn called Garrettson Beach, and kids from Garrettson Beach are called beach rats. So the name, the slang street term that describes a certain kind of kid sort of stuck with me as being a good title for a film. The kids from this particular area of Brooklyn, which is very removed geographically from the rest of the borough and a bit far from the subway, are all a bit rough and rowdy, and they share similar narratives. They're all sort of from broken homes. They all kind of fall into meth and have opiate problems, and their opportunities are quite limited. Most of them end up, falling into drugs because they don't want to join a union, or they don't want to go into the military. And some of them have violent, criminal histories. So I was just sort of thinking about, those kids, the sort of limitations and obstacles of their worlds. And simultaneously, while we were shooting It Felt Like Love, I noticed that there was cruising happening along the same beaches. So I was thinking a bit about the kind of guy that hangs out on those beaches during the day and the men that hang out on them at night. And I was thinking about the natural tension that occurs between these two worlds. Harris Dickinson, he tricked us. He submitted his audition tape, which he made at home in his mother's bedroom, through his LA management office. So initially it came in with in an LA casting session, and my first response was, I don't want to cast an LA actor. I thought that the actor would be like a New York actor, like an undiscovered New York actor, like a young, Robert De Niro or something. But he didn't show up at the audition. And then when we started going back to Harris's tape and we looked him up, we realized he was British. And I was, very conflicted about casting him, because I thought the film is so hinged on its, authentic rendering of this world. What is it going to be like to take this British kid and drop him in? So I had a lot of, sort of anxiety over what the process of that would look like. Could we get him a visa? But his audition, always spoke for itself. And was incredibly compelling. And part of what, I responded to about it, and part of what our producers responded to, was that he framed his self-tape, largely in close-up, sitting very, very tight, close to the lens. And he didn't try and sort of amp up any masculine behavior or toughness or physicality. He was just really himself, looking sort of lost and dreamy, but at the same time there was an edge and a toughness to his voice and an unpredictability to him, which we were all, drawn to.
Let me ask you all something. How'd you feel about getting high with a gay guy?
Fuck do you mean, bro?
Sometimes I can't find anything, so I go online and meet up with guys who have weed.
And then what happens?
I pretend I'm gay and I smoke their weed.
What do you do when they try to hit on you?
They already tried to hit on him, stupid.
What do you think I do?
Yo, does he got enough for everybody?
I don't know, I'll ask him.
All right, we'll come with you then.
I don't think it's an easy narrative. I hope that the film leaves an impression. I hope that the film, pushes people to realize that there is not one coming out story to be told, and that, there are still parts of this world, where people struggle to accept themselves. And I think that there can be, destructive consequences for having to sort of hide who you are and to feel like you can't, live an authentic life.